my name is Clive Gollins.
And I'm David Reed.
And you're watching
From the Bench.
So we're here with our first ever guest of From the Bench. Peter, how are you, mate?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm not too bad. David, how are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, good. So today we're going to be talking about a topic that is quite a sensitive one for a lot of football fans. Obviously, Bury fans know about this. Bolton fans had a history with administration. Norwich almost nearly as well before Stuart Webber and Daniel Farke came and saved the day. David, what's happening at Derby, mate?
With them overspending and with them not having financial stability, they are point deduction and a lot of fine slapped on them now and going into administration if they don't get owners, which is a real disappointment for Derby, which they had good points on the Lampard and bits before that, and now they're really struggling. We saw with Rooney in pre-season, he was struggling to get a starting 11 just for the training he was, and he had a joy in training himself, and you saw how out of shape Rooney is now. Can you imagine him? You try to test him for the championship.
You look at Ronaldo, I'm pretty sure Ronaldo's older than Wayne Rooney right now. And he just got Premier League Player of the Month. Peter, mate, what's your whole opinion on this Derby situation? And obviously, it could be the end of an era for Derby County fans.
It could be, and it'll be a shame too, because obviously they're a fairly large club, been around for a while too.
Yeah.
And I think, to be honest, when I first saw it caught me a little bit by surprise. It'll be a shame, really.
Yeah, I think you're completely right. And obviously, we saw Bury; they disappeared. They're off the radar now, aren't they? What are they doing at the moment?
So when they talk about Bury, they can't bring it back because they have to offer lots of guarantees that it's not coming. They can't bring the club back for a couple of years, 5 years. It's got to be a long period of time when there's enough financial stability.
Because they want to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Yeah,
if it happens again, then it's just more money down the drain, isn't it? And I think the issue with football now, as we spoke about it on the last podcast, it is becoming a lot more of a business than it is just a sport nowadays. And it's sad when what was it you said to me the other day, David, about like the filtering of the money?
The money filtering is ridiculous because in Premier League has TV rights, better sponsors and stuff. When you get the National League, when you the EFL sponsored by the Papa John Trophy, when you get sponsored by people like that, you can't expect as much money coming down there. And the money down the pyramid is so weak now. It's like you saw how we had to borrow from the Premier League, even though we're in the Championship League, League One, League Two. That's 3 leagues that haven't got the money to doing it. It's really sad that there's no. Only one time you can see EFL games, either you go watch the games. It's either on Quest tonight, there's barely any coverage, but you can get Serie B, you can get the Vanarama National League, you can get all those coverage, but you can't get the EFL. And which is the sad thing is the chairman's not really standing, the person in charge of the EFL is not really standing up for lower league clubs.
This is what I want to say to you. Do you think is it the EFL's fault or is it the Premier League's fault? Is it the EFL itself because they really aren't like pushing for this? Like the chairman doesn't seem to be really that bothered, does he? Do you know what I mean? Like they don't. It's almost like they should be having it anyway. But for me, it almost feels like they're not doing enough. Like they're not. Like I think the money that gets like look at this crazy money that these big 6 footballers are on. I mean, obviously when you look at Norwich's wages and you look at Manchester United wages, even the gulf between like 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 5th, and 6th, and then 20th in the Premier in the same league. Look at the gap between the prices of footballers. Just when you go up from the league and then to the bottom of it, it's such a shame because that is how it is going to be, and for the rest of the time, I think, and as football goes on, as more money comes into the sport, and you're right about the revenue, that obviously the Premier League is probably one of the most viewed leagues in world sport. I think that's got to be a correct stat, surely. I think we certainly get more views over here with football than they do over there in America with the NFL, and obviously the Super Bowl, I don't think, obviously it's a big sport, but again, it doesn't get the eyes that the Premier League gets. And I think when you've got the EFL and there's only one league apart, you've got the Championship, and even that doesn't get the television time.
The Golf League practices.
Well, there you go. You might get one Championship game every 2-3 weeks. You might get a couple of Championship. I mean, Norwich last season in the Premier League, in the Championship. Sorry, I think we had. I remember that. I think maybe, if we're lucky, 2-3 games a month that were on Sky Sports, and obviously we're one of the top dogs in the Championship. That really that really says something, doesn't it? When even the top teams in the Championship aren't really getting televised that much. So it's obviously it's disappointing, and it makes me think. What do you think to it, Peter? What do you think to this whole pyramid thing?
Again, it's just about money. It hasn't always been like that, but it's getting to a point where it's just going to be about money, and it's kind of ruining it, really.
Yeah, it is a shame, really. David, mate, what can the EFL do themselves to perhaps push this? And
It's just
whether that means trying to get more TV, getting like more shown on BT Sport, or even just on Freeview. Just how can the lower league teams get that public eye?
And then another problem is with the lower leagues is the standard of referees as well, because I remember the Lincoln game, it was Lincoln Blackpool, we got given a really bad championship referee with it, but for a pre-season game we got given a Premier League referee with it, and you can't understand why the EFL has decided that. You see some of the referees we get sometimes, not just for Lincoln, like in the EFL, the decisions are poor. There's technology as well that's not in the EFL either, because it's not big enough stadiums, when half the stadiums down there have been in the Championship, the Premier League, and they're not given proper technology. I think that's another problem, is it's not enough.
You're right, sorry to interrupt there, but you've got stadiums like the KCOM Stadium. Look at that's MK Dons Stadium. They haven't really touched the Premier League, have they? Their stadium's huge.
Yeah,
and you've got Hull City, they've got a big stadium. Obviously Derby County now in administration.
Bolton, Wigan.
They've all got big stadiums, and obviously they've got to pay for the upkeep of these massive stadiums, and at the minute they don't really have the attendance to fill them.
Well, I think the number of attendance, you don't, unless you're looking exactly for a team, like a small stadium, unless you're looking for say Stevenage, you won't know Stevenage exists. Like if I told you, I might talk about Lincoln, if I didn't talk about Lincoln University in college daily really, you won't know how Lincoln were unless you're facing the pre-season. And that's the problem. When the Premier League, you're more likely to stumble on, I think, Newcastle versus Brighton, or a Serie A game, than you are Lincoln. And then that's a problem, because they're not attracting football. Even though like when you go to Lincoln game, they're all professional footballers. It's not like it's a Sunday league team. And
You're completely right there. I'm just going to interrupt again, because I think you're absolutely spot on when you say, like, when you go to you go lower than the Championship, all of a sudden everyone thinks automatically, they're all excuse my French, they're all crap.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, all of a sudden you go from the Championship, you go to League One, League Two, National League. All of a sudden they're not professional footballers anymore, and that's the narrative that the public eye have. And obviously, some people on social media, they enjoy. You get the EFL fan groups on Instagram, Facebook, and things like this, and it's good to have them. And obviously, they're what are really keeping the lower leagues going. But like I say, as soon as you hit League One, League Two, and like the Conference leagues, all of a sudden, everyone thinks, oh, they're not professional footballers. It's just kicking out.
But
what's the
there's
point?
a difference in quality. Like, I can understand from both points of view. They're still professional footballers, but then again, the quality is a bit lower than, say, the Premier League.
Yeah, but if the EFL had the same amount of money as the Premier League, wouldn't League Two, the National League, be still the same standard? It's not the players' fault. It's not the owner's half the time. It's a problem. That's the thing I say. The pitches, if you look at the state of the pitch, after a couple of games, it's gone. And the rules in the National League are so much different. Like, you can have Astro pitches you can in National League. But when you come to League Two, you've got to have a proper pitch. And that's where Sutton is slapped with the fact that the change in pitch, which cost them over £300,000 it did.
For who, sorry?
For Sutton United it was, and came into League Two.
They're not in League Two, aren't they?
Yeah,
they're doing
well.
well. Got a good result the other night, didn't they?
But if you gave better quality pitches, better quality TV coverage to like National League, League Two, League One, the standard of football will improve. You can't expect good quality football from basic materials. You're playing on a basic pitch with basic football with no technology. You could kick a ball and it'd be a millimetre over the line and it won't be given, or an offside. And that's the difference why people will watch it, because it's not the high standard.
You've also got to think, like,
where are they going to get that money from?
Exactly.
Well, like you said earlier, obviously the money doesn't filter down, does it really? It takes a long time to get down there, and when it does get down there, it turns into pretty much peanuts. So you say have these big pitches, have these monitors and things like that. Where does the EFL get this money from?
It's the council that pays for half and stuff as well, because most places are either run by groups or owned by the council, and the council would fund it. Plus the EFL should put this in themselves. There should be enough money in football that could pay for, I don't know, goal line technology. That's nothing. In La Liga, they have it. In Serie B, I think they have to go on to. I don't know why. One hit Championship, League One, League Two. It's nothing there. Goal line technology has been around for so long now, and it's not even in the Championship.
I mean, you couldn't put VAR in the Championship, not for 5 seconds. They would not be able to call a Scooby-Doo. If you get Millwall fans and they get a VAR decision against them, they are throwing coins at that big screen. Sorry to any Millwall fans, I love you really.
Or National League VAR.
Exactly.
That would be so fun to watch.
At the end of the day, it's not going to improve the quality anyway.
It would, because you get more views. If you're going to play, if almost playing down low leagues, you know you're more likely to get injured, put it that way, because the refs are not going to call a decision. And now the referees, there'll be better standard of referees now, because most decisions don't get called, and now they will get called.
Yeah, but
I think David's right. Right, okay. So what David's saying is the Premier League and partly the Championship, they're moving forward, okay, technology-wise, and all of a sudden there's now a big gap in technology, and that means people are going to want to watch it less because it's like they're not really keeping up with the other league, are they? And obviously, all of a sudden it starts to feel a little bit Sunday League when you haven't got VAR, you haven't got goal line technology, you haven't got all these.
You haven't
If you know what I mean?
Okay, but it's funny, like, if you had a decision to play in a bottom tier La Liga team,
right,
or play in League One, League Two, where you want to play in the FA Cup against big opposition, who would you choose to play?
yeah, but obviously, La Liga.
Yeah, exactly, because you've got better quality of players around you, better quality pitches, even though you're in a lower team.
But that's not because.
And you've got the public eye on you because there's more technology, and I get exactly what David's saying here, because it's like the Premier League has moved forward, they've brought in VAR. Yes, the first season, no one liked it. This season, everyone's a little bit more like, it's doing its job a little bit.
But it's not VAR, it's the people who run it.
No, but that's what I mean. They have the funds to put this technology in. It's not just because of VAR itself, but like he said, in the Championship and things like that, they don't have goal line technology. They don't have these side of the pitch officials. Like most Championship clubs, and we only do because we had to because of VAR. Most Championship clubs, a lot of Championship stadiums, and a lot of the teams below that don't have big screens. Carrow Road only got its big screen.
Lincoln does have any.
Carrow Road only got its big screen 2 or 3 years ago, and that's because we went up to the Premier League with VAR. We had to have one. Obviously, we've got one of the nicest ones in the world. We've got the only turning big screen in the world, so I guess there's that for us. But do you get what I mean? Like when you go to a Premier League ground, and even Carrow Road, let's take that into example. Obviously, it's had a little bit of an overhaul over the summer, and obviously we've got the big screen. It looks nice. Carrow Road looks like a Premier League stadium, but then all of a sudden you go to, and I don't want to help them, but Ipswich Town, you look at their stadium, and it looks like a pile of shite. It does. It looks like a pile of shite.
Yeah, but we literally went there the other day.
It's like the seats are faded. It's like
but
it's
you
got. It's like they're not like the outside. The stadium.
The lights.
But it's like the lights are.
But from the outside, it don't look too bad.
Like the lights aren't working properly. Like where it says Ipswich Town or Ipswich Town, you know, like it doesn't. Sorry, boys, but it just. It doesn't look like a professional stadium, if that makes sense, because but like all the paint's fading off. Where Carrow Road looks pretty much pristine. I mean, I like that they've just put all new grass inside.
Can I change that?
Inside the tunnel, like they've put all new astroturf through the tunnel where the players walk in. But you get what I mean? Like, there's such a gulf in between, like how the stadium. You can tell by the way a stadium is looked after.
Yeah, but the problem is, is the rule strong enough? Because in the Premier League, you have a certain size stadium and a certain quality. In the EFL,
I don't think you have to have a certain size. Look at Bournemouth.
Yeah, that's yes. You've got to have it's big enough for this because it's a certain size. We look at Darlington; they're a National League team. They can't come into the Football League. Do you know why?
Because the stadium's too small.
Yeah, and do you know what? I guess
how many stands they got?
That's 20, 25.
25.
And it's not that big, and it's owned by.
They got 25 seats.
It's the smallest of the council.
United Stadium's bigger than theirs.
But do you know why? Because when Darlington went to administration, they lost the club, and the fans brought the club back. But they haven't got the funds to buy the stadium. They come second National League do and get them a buzz. So there's the rules are there. The council won't fund the stadium, they won't, and they haven't got money to fund the stadium. They need at least about £8,000-9,000. Okay, where are you going to get money for that exactly?
So that's now holding them back from being able to go up. Yeah.
The rules shouldn't. you can't. I mean, we'll talk about the fines now. The EFL decided to introduce fines, a salary cap to League One, League Two, but not the Championship.
I saw that. Yeah.
2.3 million, well, 2.5 million for League One. I was supposed to go into the Championship with Premier League teams now. Where is the fairness of that? Because you've got to save money now, and when you go into the Championship, you've got to buy a squad to compete with that now. And how many other teams are going to go and buy at least 11 players to compete with that? You talk about League Two as well. Who wants to play for a League Two, League One team now? Where there's the salary cap.
Well, so professional football is professional football.
Yeah, the gap. I get what you said. Like, the gap between the Championship and League One is almost becoming like the sort of distance of the gap between the Premier League and the Championship.
Yeah.
When Norwich go up to the Premier League, it's terrifying because our players are getting paid less. Our owner is only worth £30 million. Newcastle has just been bought for 320 billion. Was it 20?
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, something 300 billion or whatever. And so when Norwich go up, it looks terrifying because our players aren't worth as much as theirs. Our stadium isn't as big as the other. I mean, I love Carrow. I wouldn't change Carrow.
Yeah, but you say that. How come?
Yeah, but like he just said, like he just said, when Lincoln eventually make it to the Championship,
very funny.
And Norwich get relegated.
Yeah.
They then have to face a Championship giant like that. We are basically Norwich are basically the Championship's version of Man City. So when Norwich, how
come Brentford are still doing it right in the Prem? How come Brentford are doing it right?
Because they weren't slapped with any rules, or when they were.
Has Norwich been slapped with any rules?
No, but
Norwich don't have. Norwich simply don't have that. And I'm not going to lie. I think and we'll talk about this in another episode. I think Norwich have almost not overdone it in the transfer window, but almost bought in too many.
Ruined the chemistry. Yeah.
Bought in too many players that are decent, and not bought in. Say we bought in 6 or 7 players that are decent. Milošić, Christos Jolis, Matthias Nolan's incredible. But then we bought in. We bought in 6 or 7 all right, decent footballers, instead of bringing in 3 or 4 really good footballers. Do you go on and I almost think, whereas Brentford, they didn't sign that many players.
And in pre-season,
they
had the whole time to Chelsea, even Watford, the players they brought.
Obviously, Norwich didn't have a pre-season, did they? Because
you faced the mighty Lincoln, honestly. So
the mighty Lincoln.
We played it, Mike Lack was in charge, he was away on surgery, so yes, it was the mighty
Lincoln. Do you know what happened with that game?
No.
Pierre Lees-Malou, right?
Yeah.
He hadn't had his visa checked. He only had been accepted to play English football at half time against Lincoln. He came on and scored.
Yes.
Wow.
He had only had his visa checked at half time and then he came on and scored.
True story.
Yeah, this is a fact.
Yes, we got screwed. It shouldn't even count, the result shouldn't.
It was brilliant. He came on and scored.
It is what it is at the end of the day. It's pretty sneaky.
But like what I was saying is, obviously we're getting a bit sidetracked, but Norwich didn't really have much of a pre-season. They played 4 games or whatever, and when you look at it, and because we had a COVID outbreak as well, so we didn't have most Liverpool, Man City, not Leicester, but those 2 first games, they were basically Norwich's extra pre-season. Obviously, we got slapped silly against Man City, but then you look at the Leicester game, and we're able to compete, and I think Norwich do, but let's not talk about it. We better not get on to Norwich this year. I'm sure we'll have another episode about them very shortly. But David, mate. We'll close the podcast out here. We'll have some final thoughts. What do you think can be done to because it won't be able to decrease because the Premier League should go up and up and up. But what can be done to bring up the National League, Championship, League One, League Two? What can be done to help those teams that are struggling, like Derby, and the teams that are going like Bolton, who have been saved now? What can be done to help those smaller leagues either get more into the public eye or just give them a bit more revenue?
I think it's advertising, because when you see betting sites, you see all the top players, even if it's Premier League players, you see like John Joe Shelby on a betting company, you never see a top Championship player, you never see a League One, League Two, and that's the problem.
Yeah, you want to see Mitrovic sat on a poster or something.
Yeah, but even he's fairly well known. You need someone less known.
You want some of the mediocre. You want some Bristol City players in there, Millwall players.
Yeah, hey, we're mighty. Tom Harper. Good God, that's like.
See, would anyone be interested in that?
No, that's the problem.
Exactly.
But if you,
big argument, that's the thing.
How do
you pull in the interest?
Exactly.
But if you get it on TV, you've got to show these games.
You've got to do a Man City and just give out free tickets and everything.
But look, tickets are so cheap.
Get Michael Appleton to beg the fans to come and attend.
Jeez, if Michael Appleton's a cure for insomnia, we don't want to talk about him, honestly. Nobody would say tickets for League One, they are so much cheaper. Like, it's £10 to see a professional game, and afterwards you go see proper players. And I think it needs to be more sponsorships, a proper sponsorship, not Papa John, nothing making him out. A proper sponsor that the EFL needs that will really shine the light on the English football, and it needs to be more teams coverage to be on the same time as Premier League games. Because unless you're looking for Lincoln, unless you know a Lincoln player, or I know a League Two player, or a Boreham Wood player, a player like that, you're not going to look for them. You're not going to spend your weekend looking. Hey, he's golden leg. When we go on this video, we'll go on eventually. You'll see how great he is.
Right, he works for a podcast with Matt Reed, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know in the comments down below. Dislike this video if you don't want Matt Reed to come on the podcast.
All Lincoln fans out there, all 6 of you, please like this video.
All 6 of you.
We haven't got that
here. You've been a good guest, mate. Obviously, you've thrown arguments out there. You've voiced your opinions. What do you think can be done at your end? What do you think? How can the EFL improve? And how can they help their cause?
Again, I think advertising obviously is massive for the businesses.
Of course.
Nowadays,
This is why you're right. Like, football is more of a business than a sport. And we spoke about this on the last podcast, and I think you're completely right.
Yeah, but the problem is